Sound speeds. And if you're in the market for a boom pole, have limited funding, and have no idea where to look for one, then you might go to someplace like Amazon trying to find a good deal on one. But how good are those $60 boom poles? And how do they stack up against a professional model? Well, in this video, I'm going to go into candid mode. We're going to unbox a $60 boom pole from Amazon and compare it to two professional models. I haven't even opened up the box yet, so we're about to do that now. All right, let's see if we can get into this thing. Let's put down the scissors before I go chopping up something. And, oh man, this thing. Okay, it already came out of the box. This is a LyxPro MPL-20. And let's check this thing out. All right. First of all, it collapses down to like, I think 2.4 feet and goes up to 9 feet, 3 inches long. So, okay, a couple of things I'll point out first off is that it comes with an adapter, which you don't need on a professional boom pole because this is a 3/8/16 thread right here. And this here adapter adapts it to a microphone stand, basically. It's a 5/8/27 thread adapter. Now, this does not come with any kind of knot on it, but it does have a little hex screw there that you could use, I guess, to take off this tip, which we're not going to do, but that is at least a kind of a cool little option that you have if you want to remove this cable, which, is it moving? Okay, well, it's moving a little bit. Let's go ahead and look at the build quality. Sorry about that. Yikes. Okay. Oh, man. Okay. First things first, this is an internal coiled cable boom, and it has an XLR connector on the end. This is a very, very generic. As a matter of fact, this boom uncabled is $54, but if you get it with the cable included, it's $60. So this cable is only $5. What are you going to get for a $5 cable? Well, I'll tell you what, let's try to undo the end. Oh man, this thing is like jammed on there. Man, they don't want you to get into this thing, do they? Okay, well, that's the end of it. And if you notice, it's made of rubber. It's got a rubber bit over the metal knuckle. This entire aluminum boom pole has foam on it. So it's designed, I guess, to try to eliminate handling noise by putting foam on the outside. Now, let's go ahead and try. Yikes. All I did was extend it out there all the way a couple of times, and it's already resisting. Let me undo it a little bit more. Okay, now it's springing back in. So it's released now, but it's not a quarter of a turn like most professional boom poles are. Okay, so that's tight right there. It's not, well, the next segment's going. Let me tighten them all up. Okay, this segment, if I go, that's definitely going from the locked position to the unlocked position. Oh, it's unlocked, but okay, it's not being kind at all. Okay. All right. I'm not the least bit impressed with these segments. Okay. Man, the second segment's even worse than the first. It's like weightlifting. Okay. If you go about maybe 2/3 of the way around with your twisting, then it loosens up a lot better. So I guess you'd want to do that if you're going to get this pole. Oh, it's jammed up on the cable. Already? I haven't done anything with this pole yet. It's already jamming up. Okay. Here's what I will say about the build quality. Although it's aluminum, which is one of the more cheap materials that a boom pole could be made of, it does feel relatively solid. Now, the knuckles do have kind of a cheapish type rubber on the outside of them, but I'm not going to hold that against them. Build quality feels solid. It doesn't feel like it's rattling or anything like that. I mean, it's not making noise. One thing I am going to do, though, is I don't like this extra cable that they give you sticking out the top. So I do have a hex that I just went and got, and I'm going to undo this tip, and we're going to thread the cable through the correct way. So that way, at least it's not going to perhaps kink up on itself. All right, so this is coming undone now. Coiled cable isn't that bad on the inside. Now, I'm not going to do one of the special K-Tek knots on it because it doesn't deserve it, I'm sure. But I am going to put a generic style knot in it. And I'm not going to keep a whole lot of this cable on the outside of it, but I don't want to have too much on the inside because it will, it could hinder its ability to snap back. So let's see, if that's the snap part right there, I'm going to go back out about 1 inch, and that's going to be the point that I'm going to wrap it around from. Okay, it does look like the threads on there are pretty straight, which is a good thing. But one thing that is missing is a leather or rubber washer off of the end here. Normally, you will find one of those washers on there that helps it to kind of seize and hold on to a shock mount a little bit better than just going metal to the shock mount. And it reduces some vibration and makes it fit a lot better. So let's go ahead and take off one of these segments right here and see what's on the inside. Oh, come on now. Look at that glue job right there. That's terrible. This was obviously rushed together. Do we want to take bets and see if this is made like a monopod or made like a boom pole? We're going to see right now. This is a monopod design, which you can tell right here because of this plastic and how it fits together here. Also, if you notice, there is, oh, come on now. It's not going to go back together, is it? Normally, at least a monopod will... Okay, it does have it. It's this little bitty raised part, and there's a cutout in the aluminum here where you can slide this back together. But if you notice, this entire aluminum pole is going to be holding onto this plastic by only like 1 inch. It's only going to be holding on to 1 inch when it's extended out all the way. That is going to mean that it's going to bow quite a bit. Okay, that right there is the right way for it to slide in there. It's like if there was a little notch or something that was grabbing hold of either side of the little plastic pieces there. Now, the compression ring system is integrated in here, and without taking... It's probably about the same as it was on that newer, let the truth be known. It looks like it is. And it's just a plastic ring that probably goes into this metal assembly right there, and then is actually held in by grooves on the inside there. So it looks the exact same as that did on the newer. I'm not going to even bother taking that apart. Just for comparing apples to apples sake, we're going to be using the same exact shock mount that comes with the Deity V-Mic D3 Pro. That is the microphone that normally comes in this shock mount. It is based on Lyre technology, and so it's a very good quality shock mount. And I'm not going to use a really expensive Sonella or something like that. We're going to use... across the board, if you're buying this boom pole, you probably don't have enough money for a $200+ Sonella. So we're going to use this shock mount that is built into that microphone. And all I've done is taken the microphone off, the V-Mic D3. And we're going to put this microphone on top of it and connect it up. Now, one thing I do note is that when I put this all the way on there and thread it all the way on to the 3816, it's sticking off the end. That's not really a bad thing, so to speak. It's just, it doesn't snug it. That thread sticks out quite a bit. So we're going to do the same thing we did before with the newer. We're going to put this connector on the end of the microphone, and we're going to easily take off some of the slack. I'm using a bongo tie in order to hold the extra excess cable against the side of the boom pole. And that way there's a little bit of slack here, not too much, not too little. And that way we have plenty right there that we can extend out. It has plenty to wobble and wiggle and all that kind of stuff. And notice that it is pretty well balanced in there. So we should be good to go on this particular microphone setup. I just got through plugging in the Deity HD-TX recorder and hit record. So what we're going to be listening to is going to be directly from this boom pole. If you listen to that already, there's a short in this cable. Let me see. No, it's just extremely squeaky. Listen to that. Okay. All right, yes, I am touching the microphone, and that is in a sense cheating. But listen to that. The rubber boot on the bottom is squeaking around. The cable has a lot of handling noise on it. It's transmitting a lot of noise. It's less there. You hear that? There's a short inside that cable. That's not very good. Well, let's go ahead and test this thing before it breaks on us. All right, come on now. I mean, this thing is made so badly that it's a chore to extend and collapse. You hear that squeak? Oh, that's terrible. There's no, it's not seamless at all. It's a chore to extend this thing. This thing is extended out 9 feet, and what you're hearing is a little bit of the wind coming and hitting the end of the microphone as I'm moving around the boom. Cueing it back and forth, it's quieter than the newer was, which is nice. You know, handling noise isn't terrible until you do, if you do a fast cue, that's when you really hear that chirping sound. That's a bad cable. I mean, I'm whipping it around a little bit, not a whole lot. If I bounce it at all, it's terrible. All in all, it's not horrible. If you recabled it, it'd be okay. I mean, okay, not great. I hate this thing and how bad the knuckles are. And I hate hearing that squeak in the meantime. And just extending the pole and collapsing it is enough to make it jam on itself. Okay, now it's collapsed. The pole itself doesn't transmit a whole lot of handling noise because the foam seems to be doing a pretty decent job on this pole. As a matter of fact, if you listen to this, even the aluminum right there is not picking up any of that transmission noise. So this is made a lot better than that newer is. I still want to try to get that off. It's not going to happen though. So all in all, I mean, for $60, if you recable it, it's probably not going to be that bad. Or spend $55 and get the regular model without the cable built into it. And then buy your own cable. XLR Rapid on the outside or something like that. But all in all, I mean, it's not great, but it's going to be a lot quieter and better than the newer. So let's compare this now to some pro models. The first boom pole we're going to compare it to is the K-Tek Mighty Boom KP16. This is a premium boom pole that sells for just over $850. It does have a right angle branded cable on the other side. This is a made in America boom pole, by the way. And if you notice over here, it does have the special K-Tek knot, but you can watch videos about how to do that online. Now, I want you to notice the segments. They're extremely smooth if I don't hit the cable upon itself. That right there is a world of difference. As a matter of fact, this is a very premium model of boom pole, and it even has a what's called a CCR, which is a side exit XLR on the bottom. This is also a modular boom pole, meaning that you can take it apart here and switch this piece out and put on just the end bumper right there. So that way, if you don't want to have an XLR module off the back of it, adding weight to the boom, you can take that completely off there. You could add a straight cable. You can remove the cable altogether. But one of the cool things about K-Tek is that you can actually get your name engraved on the actual boom pole itself. But let's listen to how this thing sounds if we were to plug it up to our handy dandy DD-HD-TX. So the cable is actually fitted on the end to be the perfect length, so you don't have all this extra cable hanging out on the end. And if you look at the segments, they're nice and smooth on the inside. And at the end here is the HDTX, which is side address. So that way you can stick this on the ground and you're not going to end up messing up your transmitter. Let's go ahead and extend this out smoothly, I might add. And we're going to extend this thing out only about 9 feet. So that's going to be as far as it was before. I'm kind of in a small cramped area here trying to get this thing done, but I'm going to extend this thing out so we can see how it extends and swings around when we have it extended out about as far as we did with the other boom pole, the LyxPro. So this is now extended out, and what you're listening to is me swinging this around. You're hearing the wind hit the microphone, but you're not hearing any handling noise. Right there. Now, I want you to listen to this also. Dead quiet. If I hit it, you can hear it shaking the microphone. But when I slide my hands all over the place, dead quiet. This is a premium boom pole. You can hear the microphone swinging all over the place, but you're not going to have any issues with handling noise, even from the internal coiled cable. Now, if you aggressively swing it back and forth, the cable will roll on the inside of it, but that's the nature of a coiled cable. Right there. And it comes back in so nicely and easily. And it's because it's a K-Tek. It's very smooth, no issues at all. But this pole right here is about $850. So it's quite a bit more expensive than the $60 one. And so why don't we compare this to one other professional boom pole and see how well it does. This is an Ambient QXS-5130 boom pole now. And notice I am putting the transmitter directly onto the end of this boom pole. That's by design. You can get other side exit models, but that's the one I wanted. I wanted it to mount on the end. That way there's a little bit of counterweight there. Now, another thing to note here is that, let me unplug this thing so that way I'm not killing myself here. If you notice here, there's a very short amount of cable on the end of this boom. And the reason why is because I usually use this with Sinella or a Rycote Envision 6 or 7 with an XLR tip on the side, and I put a little jumper to it. So I don't really need a whole lot of extra cable because I use all my own shock mounts whenever I work for a sound mixer. And this allows me to have very little cable to have to manage, and it's not going to really, get in my way and I have to do any kind of cable management. It works well for me. But that does mean that it's not going to fit properly on the shock mount here. There's no way for me to plug up a microphone to that, but that's okay because I'm so confident that this boom pole is going to be quiet that I'm not even going to use a shock mount on it. I'm just going to plug the microphone up directly and then extend it. Now, this, just like the LyxPro, is a 5-section boom. Now, the K-Tek Mighty boom that we just showed was a 6-segment boom. And this is an EMC connector on the end of it. I love those things. Watch my video if you haven't seen it. But what I'm going to do right now is extend this out, and we're going to listen to it live. Let me plug this thing up, and I'm going to intentionally stick this boom out. Now, I'm not going to listen to it as I extend it simply because it's very noisy, because there is no shock mount. But I am going to extend this thing out as long as I did before. And I'm doing this now for a reason, because I want you to notice this. You can hear me because I'm not able to hold it perfectly steady. Here, let me see if I can do this. Zero transmission noise. And that's with no shock mount at all. This is just coming straight off the end of the cable. Now, listen to this. I mean, you hear that because there's no shock mount. Yikes. If you're curious as to what the segments look like on a real professional boom pole, right here on the inside of this Ambient QXS-5130, we're taking it apart. Notice it is heavily greased up on the underside of this, and there is compression ring right here that you can easily access and slide out. It fits into the retainer pin right there. And the segment, if I completely remove it, notice that there's a little bit of the special ambient Velcro right there. And there's some more down there at the bottom. That means a little bit more of the boom actually stays on the inside of the outer segment, which gives it more stability and strength. And if we slide this back together here, this is the way a boom pole should look. We're just going to slide the compression ring back into the retainer pin right there. I may have to actually take this thing apart and do a little bit of maintenance. There's also a silicone O-ring right there as well. So I'm going to go the wrong way with it until it slips back into its groove. And right there, now you can tighten this on up. Now we'll look at the K-Tek. Every boom pole is designed a little bit differently, and the K-Tek is no different. On the inside here, if you notice, there is a compression ring on the inside, but it's currently stuck on the inside of there, but I do know it comes out. Now, if we were to take this all the way off, you're going to notice that there's 2 pieces of Delvin on the inside. That's a kind of a plastic type material. There they are. And if you notice, it keeps a little bit more of the boom on the inside as well. This fattens it up a little bit and allows it to hold more of the boom on the inside. If you notice right there, it's a very smooth fit. And that right there allows it, and no, these are not the same kind of cheap plastic pieces that pull off on either side either. No, this is a piece of Delvin. It's very, very slippery, and it slides perfectly on the inside of the outer segment. And this right here is not greased like it is on the Ambient, but it is designed perfectly so it's smooth and it fits wonderfully on the inside of the outer segment, and it doesn't have any resistance to it like that cheap boom pole does. Here's a couple of quick things to note regarding the cheap pole versus the 2 professional models. This is made of aluminum and it has foam padding on the outside to try to help with handling noise, and neither one of these poles need it. They're both made of carbon fiber, made properly. They're dense enough so that way it doesn't transmit handling noise very easily at all. You have to actually work to try to get some handling noise to go through it, and they're both solid as a rock when you start to swing them around here. This actually, because these don't lock properly, and on the inside here it's made like a monopod, all it does is transmit noise all the way through it. So this is not as bad as the newer was, but it still transmits handling noise quite effectively through it. Now, both of these professional model booms, the segments quickly and easily go out, lock perfectly in place, and they smoothly come back in. Now, you may look at that and say, well, geez, for $850 plus and $1,000 plus, I would expect it to have all the bells and whistles and, you know, easily be able to you know, get great results with. Yeah, you can make that argument, but there's a reason why professionals use the good stuff. It's because it's the good stuff. You don't have to think about it. You can get different modules on the end of it. You can get the CCR, you can get your engraving, you can get side address, or you can get an end address, whatever you want to do. And the thing is dead quiet. Now, there's a little bit in the price difference also in the fact that this pole here is almost 18 feet. This pole here is about 16 feet. And that pole, the cheap one, is only 9 and 3 inches, 9 foot 3 inches. So all in all, if you have to get a cheap boom pole, this one isn't that bad. I would prefer this one to the newer unless you need that extra 1.5 feet of length. But this pole here, aside from the knuckles, which I absolutely hate, it does actually weigh only slightly less than a pole that's over twice its length in carbon fiber. And the cable is nothing to write home about. It transmits a lot of noise versus both of these that are dead quiet on the Pro models. You know, like I said before, if you have to buy a cheap boom, this one wouldn't be terrible. It's not going to be great, but I think there might be a better option out there if we looked for it. The fact that the cable on the inside of it made a lot of noise and shorted out when I just did a little bit of light cueing, that to me is an issue. This thing transmits a lot of noise and it was shorting out right here on the inside of this connector. As a matter of fact, I might look at this because this is not a premium brand connector at all. The other end I couldn't even get into. And let's look at this right here. No, this is not going to be star quad. It's not even properly heat shrink, but it is ground tied to the casing. That's good. Is that right? Yes, it is right. But it's kind of a sloppy solder job. And the cable is complete garbage. It's plastic. It's not rubber. But, you know, it's a $5 XLR. Get a better XLR. Don't buy the cheap one if you are concerned about quality. That's simple as that. So there you have it, the LyxPro MPL-20. I don't know what MPL stands for, nor do I know what 20 stands for. Maybe that's 20 inches from here to here. I don't know. What I can tell you is that on a K-Tek Classic pole, if it has the K and then a number after it, the number after it is the number of inches that pole is when it's fully extended. Now, if you go to one of the Mighty Boom series, then the number after it is the number of feet that pole is when it's fully extended. And on the Ambients, the QXS-5130, for example, the QXS is the series, and then the 5130, 5-section boom, and then 130 centimeters when that boom is collapsed all the way is the length of the pole. So there you go. I don't know what that model number is, but that tells you at least that there is thought that goes into the professional booms, so that way you can tell exactly what the code is, and if you want to buy a boom that's to a certain length. As for if this is a pole I would recommend, if you're looking for a 9-foot pole and you don't want to use the internal cable, you could easily use this, I guess. It's not the most premium of things. It does not have very many serviceable parts. I mean, I still can't get this thing undone, even though it is wobbling just a little bit. But I don't want to really chance it because the segment here, it's not great. Honestly, I think you could find a much better boom pole for only a little bit more money, maybe around $100 even. Perhaps I might do a video on trying to find a better option for in the same price point. Let me know if you're interested in that. But in the meantime, thank you for watching this episode of Sound Speeds, and be sure to tune in the future for more interesting, cheap products, professional products that we absolutely love, and sound advice.
Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.